Ask Me Anything, where you can ask us anything. So I'm Bob Osborne. I'm the principal of the Osborne Group, and I'm joined by my colleagues Laurel McCombs and Karen Osborne. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Or I don't know
Hi,
what else
I'm
to say.
Hi, I'm Laurel McCombs. I'm the Senior Philanthropy Advisor with the Osborne Group. Super excited to be here with you all today.
And I'm Karen Osborne. What is my title again? Senior Strategist of the Osborne Group. And I am thrilled to be back with you guys.
Yes, well, welcome everyone. Looks like we have an intimate group today, but the way this works is, again, just use the Q&A feature to type in any questions that you might have, and again, we'll try to get to as many questions as we can over the next half an hour or so. But we did have one question that came in through email, and so why don't we get to that question? I will quickly read it. So that question is, what are some resources for matching grants and the best practices when pursuing them? I've heard that we should pursue, but as a newer development warrior, all help is appreciated. So I assume by matching grants, you mean corporate matching grants. Is that your guys' understanding too? Is that what you would guess?
That's what I thought she meant.
Yeah. So any strategies that we have that we'd like to share?
Well, you know, there's like the simplest, and then there's the more, then you invest time. So the simplest is just the way that you do bequests. You know, when just the simple marketing approach, you just include it in everything. Please find out if you work for a matching gift company, and then, make sure that they know that they fill out their forms so that you can get, so we can get matched. That has the least effect though. It's down I think only 7% of all donors who belong to companies that match actually fill out the form and follow through. So that is a simple way, but we probably need a more engaging and research-based approach. But I'll turn it over to Laurel.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Karen. I think there's the kind of basic, just put it on the form kind of thing, and I guess if you're going to look to do something more than that, I mean, there are lots of lists out there that will tell you all of the companies that offer matching grants. But you also have to recognize that, you may not be the organization that somebody gets their donation matched for, right? Like you're probably not the only person that someone's giving to. There's probably all kinds of different requirements and rules about how many matching grants an organization will make for their employees, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I always think about our expectation of return to the amount of work. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of us are looking for those opportunities that are going to be as little work as possible to have huge return. And I think matching grants, I think sometimes falls into that category of, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And we could just get money, like money will just come in. And yeah, it will, but it'll probably come in like little bits and bops and drips and drops, and not like an avalanche of dollars, but it's also not an avalanche of work. So, I mean, I think you just kind of have to, I'm not saying don't do it. I just think have the right expectations for the amount of work you're going to put into it, I guess is my.
Yeah. And, just one last thought on that, just like you do your, table of gifts, you put your energy at the highest end, top of the table. That's the same thing with corporate matching gift programs. So if you've got a big local employer that lots and lots of people belong to, and you have a relationship with them, they give you money in some other way, that's a great place to ask if you could come and speak to the employees, if you could, that you have a relationship. And if you have some big donors that well, maybe they're your your $1,000, your $5,000 annual fund donors, and you have a relationship with them, that's easy for you to say during your visits. Does your company match? Because, or I was researching and I found out your company matches and would. So again, to Laurel's return on investment comment, it's, putting your energy where you're going to get the best. And that's usually starting with people you already know and companies you already know, rather than randomly trying to get dollars.
Yeah. Well, and Pamela Haas, thank you, Pamela, posted in the Q&A. She said, nonprofits might be able to post on sites like Your Cause. And I think that's all great stuff, right? Like, doing Your Cause, doing like Amazon Smile, doing all of those things. They're very low work on your end. And you will get some return, but recognize that it's going to be some return. Again, the return is going to kind of equal the amount of work it takes to do that. And it's pretty quick and easy to sign up on Amazon Smile, but I haven't heard of any organizations that are starting endowments because of the gifts coming in through Amazon Smile, right? Like, I think it's again, I'm all for covering your bases and doing the easy stuff to just catch the low-hanging fruit, but again and this is too, I think, with boards. Sometimes boards will kind of come and say, oh, we should do this thing because it's really low effort and it's easy for them to do, and I think we have to be able to talk to our boards about this kind of idea of return on investment of those strategies as well, because I think these are kind of the suggestions we tend to get from our board members a lot too. Well-meaningly, of course.
Well, thank you both for those answers. And so again, it's please type any questions you have into the Q&A, and again, we'll get to as many of them as we can. Hopefully, there's got to be some questions out there, since you guys have showed up here with us this afternoon. While we wait, and I don't know, maybe you guys have some questions that clients have brought up recently that we can talk about. I'll just add to the last question very, very briefly, is that when I was working when I was a PTA president, the matching gift program for us worked pretty well, but it was for the same reasons that you said. It was a pretty well-defined community, and we were able to contact people pretty directly. We did the background research. We kind of knew where people were working, and when they gave a significant gift that was, worth pursuing a matching gift for, and we knew that they worked for a company that did that matching gift, we were able to contact them and ask them if that was something that they would be willing to do, and that worked pretty well. But it did, I think it worked well because it was a pretty well-defined community, both in terms of the people that we knew and in terms of the geographic area. We kind of knew the companies that people would likely work for and the like.
Bob and Laurel, one thing that has come up quite a bit, people have called me, just to ask a question. Can I just talk to you about this? Can I brainstorm with you about this? And it is this hybrid that we're going into. So we've been working from home. We've been doing virtual events. We've been having virtual meetings. I was just on a meeting right before this, I'm a board member on Easter Seals, and they are trying to figure out how to engage their donors in a hybrid way coming up this fall, because they're not ready to go full, everybody come in, let's all, and even the workers, not every worker wants to come back. And so managers have to somehow manage this hybrid of people working in the office and people working remotely. And then the gift officers have to manage this hybrid. Some people want me to visit, some people want, and I just wondered if you guys had any thoughts about smoothing, or corralling this new transition period, this hybrid, or maybe this is the way it's going to be. Maybe this is the way it's going to be going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little strange prognosticating around this, because I feel like we've all been like completely wrong about everything with regard
I
to
mean, just
this
us.
particular pandemic. No, everybody in terms of the pandemic
Oh, okay.
itself. You know what, I've been, this has come up too for me with some clients as they think about the fall. And I guess what I've been advising people to do is to have both in-person, small in-person events, because I think that is potentially possible. And people will be feeling okay about that, as well as online engagement opportunities as well, and to kind of think about both, you know, to not go all in with one and not go all in with another, but like you said, Karen, just you know, having, like, being hybrid for the fall. I think we're all optimistic, and I think there's reason to be optimistic that maybe we can have something resembling normalcy by the fall. But I think, you know, having some mix, and probably, I think, I don't know if I have an opinion about large scale events, but and speaking for clients, I don't know any clients that have planned any big events outside of outdoor events, like a golf outing or something like that, for the rest of 2021. So we'll have to see. I think a lot of organizations have to make decisions about that probably in the next month or two, as they sign contracts and the like. But I think because there's no way to know, it's probably the safe thing to do is kind of have a little bit of both. And even if you're doing smaller activities, at least those are easy to bring online if you needed to bring them online. I don't know, Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably a little bit of just the way the world is going to work moving forward. I think that we're all going to just keep doing a lot more virtually forever. I think there are a lot of people who've taken to Zoom, and as much as we're all tired of it right now, I think once we kind of all get to be together in person a little more, I think our appetite for Zoom probably will even out as well. I think we're going to have more of an appetite than we did before the pandemic, certainly, maybe not, and probably more than we do right now because we're forced to be here. And so I think there are still going to be some real opportunities on Zoom. I think the thing that we've heard too is there are donors people are reaching out to and engaging with that they never have before because of Zoom. And so I think we continue to recognize that there's still going to be a set of people who want this kind of interaction. I also think, you know, and I'm such a broken record about this, but, you know, I think about especially events, in-person events, and, you know, like Bob said, I'm all for trying to do some small group stuff in the fall, but I think this is the absolute perfect time for all of us to stop and assess all of the things that we used to do in person and question, again, return on investment, theme of the day, right? You know, were those things, were the golf outings and the, you know, the galas, the things that we should have been doing anyway? I mean, are there other options for us right now? So I guess part of me thinks, gosh, what a kind of a blessing this has all been to maybe shake us out of status quo a little bit, because maybe status quo wasn't such a great place for us to be.
You know, though, just one caution. So, and I'm sure you guys have run into this, but there were shops where, when there was no pandemic, when people weren't getting out the door, they weren't making those visits, they weren't making those calls. The research kept them bound. People had lots and lots of excuses for why they weren't doing that in-person work. So I agree 100%. This is in addition to what Laurel just said, because I agree 100% that it's all about assessing and return on investment. But when you're doing that assessing, and especially if you're a manager, you need to make sure that you are thinking about, you know, is this donor somebody that an in-person visit is important for? And is this, you know, and not just default, well, you know, Zoom works and I can stay at my desk and I'm working from home, and, you know, let's let it be about the work, not about feeding into our fears and our bad habits and our whatevers. And I think that's going to be hard for managers, because they're going to have to ask tough questions of their team, and they're going to have to provide guidelines. for when you decide, is it going to be a Zoom or is it going to be, and we're going to have to measure differently and hold people accountable differently. So I feel like this summer, for those that have June 30th as their end of their fiscal year, and they do their planning in the summer, or those that for this summer is their mid-year correction, this is when you've got to do the work that Laurel just said, and you've got to add a filter on it that says, we have board members that really love these events that weren't very good. We have staff that never met their visit quotas before then, and just put that all in the mix and really try to make smart decisions based on data, based on being donor centric.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and I know we have a couple questions that have come in, but one I swear, one last little piggyback on
very
what Karen
quickly,
said is, I think again, this idea of policies for staff, because, when we were in the thick of the pandemic, I did have a conversation with a fundraiser who was like, I have a donor who is very like, I don't believe in masks and I think this is a conspiracy, and and wanted to purposefully have breakfast at a place where they didn't require masks, as like a, and he was like, I don't want to go. And I was like, you don't have to go, right? But there is good, but to Karen's point, we are going to get to a point where you, as managers, people are going to have to know, like, it's going to be a tough row to hoe, because it's going to be like keeping your staff feeling safe and supported, but also not letting some things feel like excuses for not getting out and doing the visits, right? So I think as managers, again, just to put a punch on Karen's point, like, pay attention to figure out which of those it is, right? Like, and try to help your staff through it and have some policies in place to deal with it.
Well, I did go on an in-person meeting for the first time in a year yesterday, so maybe things are turning around. We have a couple of other questions. So we have one from Ruthie. I'm working in an advancement shop at a university where there's no definitive separation between annual fund and major gifts, and everything falls into a catch-all category of fundraising. We need to evolve quickly to educate our office about a culture of philanthropy, as well as the difference between different types of fundraising, so we can move away from feeling like we're fundraising a la big sale and feeling more like the professional shop that I envision we can be. So more of a comment than a question, but do you guys have any thoughts about that, about Ruthie's comment?
I mean, I'll just jump in. It does feel like there's maybe just some kind of education, and it's not a matter of like a one-day training, right? I mean, it feels like there's kind of a need for kind of a curriculum to get put in place at all levels of the university. And this is something, we see, the need to not just have frontline fundraisers understand, but the need to have deans and faculty and the president understand kind of what the purpose is and what we're trying to accomplish. And, again, I think it's something you could do on your own. I think there's a lot of great people like the Osborne Group who can help you do this kind of work and help you kind of create a multi-tiered long-term curriculum that you can put in place that really gets to that culture of philanthropy. But it's not something that's going to be accomplished through kind of a one-shot training. It really has to be something that gets to culture and gets to long-term change in that culture. And again, Bob and I were just the other day, we were doing a webinar on anti-racist fundraising and talking about the fact that people have to understand the return on investment in these big change management projects, that it isn't just kind of the right thing to do, but it is actually going to help you see, it's going to affect your bottom line in a really good way. And I think helping people see that's really important.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, when I think about the importance of having categories of fundraising, I think a lot of times they're just sort of arbitrary. They're like labels. We use them as labels, but the reality is there's a different methodology for doing major gifts. There's a different methodology for doing mid-level giving, and there's a different methodology for doing lower level annual fund giving. And those methodologies directly impact the return on investment that you can have. And if you're spending your time on the, if you're doing major gift level methodologies on mid-level and lower level donors, you're spending a lot of resources on those donors. You're not going to get the same return on investment. And then there's a big opportunity cost for doing that as well, because now you're spending all your time on these lower return donors, and it makes it hard for you to do the work that you could be doing at the major gift level. So these aren't, I think a lot of times we think about these again as just like labels. Well, my highest donors will just be my major donors, and the people in the middle will be my mid-level donors, and the people that are the lowest will be my annual fund donors. And I understand that thinking, but we also need to think about how are we going to approach these prospective donors, and how do we do this work in a way that we will get the return on investment. And so I get to Laurel's point, I think it's a good case to make to the powers that be, that to be thinking about it that way will in fact allow you to raise more money. What do you want to add, Karen?
I was just going to say, and one of the things, we try to keep up with the latest and the greatest and the best and all that, but there is a tool that is probably 100 years old, but it's something you could do right now that at least helps you be organized, so you could have this conversation with people, and that is your table of gifts based on capacity, not giving. So if you can put down who are your top donors based on their ability to give, so you've rated them, not just the size of their gift, certainly then list the size of gifts, so you can look at that too, but that lets you have a beginning conversation with a champion, with a person who might help you move this forward, and then help you think about training or think about how we're going to handle this. A table of gifts is a powerful, powerful tool for everybody who's listening. It's the place I would start. So then I could say, look, we have this percentage of people who have the capacity to do our entire goal for this year. Shouldn't we be handling them differently than we're handling this group of people who can only get us 10% towards our goal? So that's a good tool. And data speaks.
Yeah, anytime we can make an empirical argument, I think it helps, because then it's not just your opinion that's out there, but you're looking at numbers, and that's harder to argue with.
Well,
okay,
and I was just going to jump in, Bob, and say the table of gifts is such a good tool that it is actually the thing I was going to reference in to the next question that we have.
Well, let me read the question, and then you can dive in, Laurel. Your favorite topic. Following on Laurel's comment on board observations and suggestions, what is a good strategic response to, quote, of course everyone will give a lot, who wouldn't love us, end quote. Again, well-intentioned, but when we as a development team have a good sense of our constituents' capacity and we set ambitious but realistic goals, it can sometimes be challenging to respond and be heard by starry-eyed board members. So go for it, Laurel.
I want to say congratulations on having a board who starts with, of course, everyone will give a lot who wouldn't give to us. Because unfortunately, I hear the opposite from a lot of boards, which is, I can't think of anybody to ask, right? And so I think first of all, recognizing that that's not a bad place. There are worse places to be with your board. But the first thing that came to my mind was table of gifts. And so glad that Karen already brought it up. And side note, if any of you need a template, you can just go to the osbornegroup.com, go to our tools and resources section. There is a downloadable Excel table of gifts there that you can just download and start using. And you can always email us if you're getting stuck and you need a little help with that. And I love table of gifts for use with the board. I think it is, it's the best tool just in terms of your own personal management of your portfolio and of your donor pool. But in terms of management with the board, it's the best, because I think what we tend to do with the board is we tend to go and say, oh my gosh, everything's so great. We're in the black. Here's the finance report. Here's the cash on hand. Everything's great. And then of course our board's like, everything's great. You guys got this. No problem. We don't need to do anything, right? And kind of don't have real specific ideas of how they can contribute. I think a table of gifts becomes your best tool then to say, everything's great finance wise. We're in the black, all the investments are good, everything's great, but here's the gap, right? Here's what we still need to raise for the remainder of this year. And here's the breakdown by level of where those gifts need to come from. Oh, and by the way, here are the people we've already identified who might give at those levels. And here's the gap, right? Here's the blanks. Here's, and so I know that you're saying, gosh, we have, everybody wants to give to us. Well, can you let me know who those people are exactly so I can put them in our name by name table of gifts and we can start to create a strategy for them? Because I think part of this is to get board members to stop thinking in the abstract and start getting them to think in the name by name. Okay, yes, we are great. And yes, everyone should want to give to us, but let's talk about exactly who those people are and put those names in our name by name table of gifts at the level that we think they have the capacity to give at. And I think that really tangible, like kind of taking that bigger, like, yeah, everybody gives discussion down to a very tangible level is hopefully what will start to put some reality around this for them. I think either way, whether you have a board who says, oh, this is so easy, everyone wants to give to us, or you have a board that says, oh, this is so hard, nobody wants to give to us. I think either way, the table of gifts becomes your best friend in terms of helping them to create some strategy.
And don't forget to include corporations, foundations, individuals, so that you're looking at, who could give us $100,000. Here are the 3 corporations and it's not a corporation that you have no way of contacting. And it's not a person that's 12 degrees of separation away and you have no way to get to them. This has got to be reality based, but don't negotiate against yourself. Don't start to write a name and say, but they would never give us a gift of that size, so I'm not going to put them up there. That's our job, is to inspire somebody to give at the levels. Right.
And I would add too that it creates a sense of collective responsibility, and to not just kind of break out the table of gifts one time to make a point, but to use it as a metric that you report on every quarter or however often you have board meetings, so that people can see progress or lack thereof, and you can collectively solve whatever the problem might be around around your prospecting work. Because I think sometimes when people just say everyone will give us money, it's great. It's kind of a way of saying this isn't, like, everything's fine, like you said, Laurel. I'm not going to worry about this. They don't see it as their problem, right? Like, everyone would give to us. If they don't give, it's something else, right? It's someone else's problem, but it's not my problem. It's something that the staff is doing. And so I think using metrics and using a table of gifts is a really good way of creating accountability within the organization and making sure that everybody sees whatever fundraising challenges you may be facing as a collective responsibility, and a responsibility of the board as well as the staff. So we have 2 minutes. Going once, going twice. We can always end a few minutes early if there's no other questions. So we'll give you another 30 seconds or so if anyone would like to type in a question. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up.
Just a quick plug to everybody. We've got some new chats up on our blog that we've put up in the last few weeks. Some good stuff on navigating the CEO's role with in fundraising. We did a great chat on development systems and technology, and then just the other day put up a new chat on power dynamics and fundraising, talking about some of the awkward / inappropriate / difficult situations that sometimes we find ourselves in with donors. A great chat with some folks from Cal State Fullerton on how they've put together a program to address that. So if any of you are interested in any of that, please go to theosborngroup.com to our blog and check out some of those chats. And coming soon in the next week or so, a really great video from Karen on checking in with your goals. So stay tuned, keep in touch with us on our blog.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. And again, we're here every first Friday of the month. So we'll see you in a month or so. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.